Yes.
Could you please
Good
start
morning.
introduction?
Yes. So now we're ready for our featured speaker, Kim Curtis, Executive Director of Goodness Village.
Good morning. I'm wondering, do I have permission to share my screen? Oh, I do. Excellent. Excellent. It's so good to be here today. You all meet early. Let me see if I can do this. So I'm the Executive Director of Goodness Village. I have a little bit of a presentation for you all today. I don't know how much everyone knows about Goodness Village or if it was talked about before in the past throughout the city council meetings and things like that. I've been with the program since October 1st. Came over from working for the county. I was inside Santa Rita doing mental health services there for the last few years and worked with San Joaquin County prior to that. I am a licensed clinical social worker, been licensed for 9 years, got my master's degree back in 2012 and have worked about 17 years with the severely mentally ill population, primarily homeless, severely mentally ill. And then also in locked facilities. Going back, I'm sure you've all noticed that the homeless encampments have gotten bigger and more visible in Livermore since 2015. Previously, I worked for Abode Services and drove that 40-foot mobile clinic, and it was definitely a smaller population, and we've watched it grow over time. There are no statistics available to us from 2020 because no one went out to do counts during COVID, but we are expecting the number to be quite larger when we are able to go out in 2022 and see also the effects of COVID on our unhoused population and the cost of the loss of housing that is going to come from the fallout of people not being able to pay rent over the last 14 months. Let's see. And these are the statistics. Number wise, there's 264 Livermore residents in 2019 that were unsheltered or considered homeless. So in the shelters or on the streets, 68% of them were on the streets. There is 50% are women. Typically those come out of a secondary cause. So they left their home out of domestic violence, may have gone to the shelters, may have done those type of things. And then time has gone too long to where they're no longer eligible for those domestic violence services, but they're still homeless. So then they end up on the streets, or the just leaving a traumatic household to enter a shelter is pretty traumatic as well when you have violent history. And so it's really difficult to manage through a shelter with a bunch of strangers who have their own trauma. So typically we'll see some women fall out and end up into homelessness and substance use to manage their trauma history. Goodness Village is under the same understanding as Community First out of Austin, which is our model, but we understand that the cause of homelessness is the catastrophic loss of family and community. Most of the time we see the secondary, right? We see substance use, we see mental illness, we see, I don't know, lots of other things that we believe, like laziness and other things that we believe is the cause of homelessness. But if you look further back, if you go back into the childhood or back into their early 20s and things like that, you'll see that it's a catastrophic loss of family that ended into that homelessness arena. For myself and for many others of us that have come across hard times, we typically go home, we go back to our family support and we regroup and we go back out into the world. Well, if that's not available to you, then the homelessness it's the cycle that you enter into, and oftentimes the substance use and the mental illness start becoming more profound. Oops.
Another breezer.
Oh. We can't hear the audio for the video.
Oh no. What do they see?
Kimberly, reshare and click optimize for video clip, and then it will share your
Oh,
sound.
okay, 1 second. Oop. I can't get back to it. Where did it go? Here we go, show screen. Okay. I can still hear it. How do I do this?
When you go to share screen, you'll be given the opportunity
Okay.
to click optimize for video, and then it should also get the sound. But you have to stop sharing before you have to share in that way.
Okay, I hit the stop share.
So when you click
I
on
can still
share,
hear it though. That's what I'm wondering. Why?
well, that's because it's playing for you. But if you click share and then at the bottom it says optimize for video clip, if you click that, it'll also click share sound.
Oop, I see you. Okay. And then go back and open it again?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I have to do. Ooh, please, apologies for this. I've not had this come up. Okay. Let me go back to this. And then. Okay, I'm gonna try to restart that over. And I apologize. I think someone on my staff may have deleted a slide in between. So this was an original video that we did back with Scott Haggerty, who funded our program a while back. I want to say it was in August that we started partnering with him. Let me see. And so, and then we are on the Crosswinds land. So that's why the two of them are inside this video. Let me go back to starting that over for you. My apologies.
Hi, my name is Scott Haggerty. I'm an Alameda County Supervisor, and we're here at
Are you
Crosswinds
able to hear
Church
it
in
now?
Livermore, and we are standing
Yes.
inside one of our newly delivered tiny homes.
Supervisor Scott Haggerty had heard about our desire to do something like this with this land and came out and said, what would it look like for us to partner with you as the county? What would it look like for the city of Livermore? A few of our city council members have had this vision as well there.
My hope is that we become the model for the cities, the counties, the states on how to address homelessness.
This is 28 homes, 10 ADA units, and it's a start. And although we can't expect Crosswinds to carry the load for the entire Tri-Valley, I think this can be the model. It will show other churches that it works. It will show business it works. There always needs to be somebody that takes that risk.
This is meant to be permanent housing for a person to be able to have a place that they can call home and build community with others who call it home as well.
Our immediate goal is we're hoping to put these homes in place mid-February, and we're going to start the interview process while they're still out in the parking lot so that they can come in, see what the homes look like, see if that's something that's going to be a fit for them, and then we'll start bringing people in for residency in March. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Each one of these homes is going to have what we would call kind of a kitchenette with stoves and refrigerators and some counter space. Each one of the homes has its own bathroom so that you can have that kind of privacy. We really believe that for people to feel like they're having a dignified experience, they have to have a dignified home.
There's a philosophy or a belief that homelessness is caused by laziness, substance abuse, lack of employment, they just don't want to work, and other things. And we believe that homelessness is caused by the catastrophic loss of family.
We're asked to be people who bring about goodness. And that's why it's Goodness Village, because we think we have a chance to bring goodness into people's lives who have not had a lot of goodness lately. And then to see them start to do the same thing for others.
We shouldn't have to tell people it's a right to have housing. It's a right to have food. It's a right to have mental health services. It's a right to be cured of your addictions. We shouldn't have to explain those to people. I think we need a little bit more compassion when it comes to the issue of homelessness, and we need to quit looking away.
Okay. So we're going to go back and get that other screen. My goodness, as you can see, I haven't done a presentation in a while. There we go. Okay. There we go. I typically do tours on site. So if you ever want to come and see the tour, please come see it because it's so much different than watching it like this. So as you can see from the video, we are delayed in our construction. That is due to COVID and how difficult it's been to get materials and other items out there. So right now we are looking to have our first move-ins be we're looking to get a permit for temporary use in one of the pod areas that we have our cul-de-sac. And then we're waiting for decks over on our ADA units. So we're about 6 weeks out to be completely finished. But we're able to bring in about 10 people towards the end of June. So we're really excited. We have our list of folks that we're planning to bring in. And I keep telling people my office looks like I'm planning a wedding because I have a map of the village drawn out on a whiteboard and I have posties with names and we're moving them around the village so that we can create the best milieu for these folks. So trying to decide out of these personalities that we've met, who might present as the alpha of that cul-de-sac, and are we okay with them being the alpha? Do we need to put somebody else in there to kind of help simmer that down and make it a recovery environment rather than maybe a more energy filled chaotic environment? So moving people around based off of their personalities and what they've got going on in their history and their current barriers to housing retention. So our belief is that everyone wants and deserves to be listened to be treated with dignity and respect, to feel purposeful and valued, to be a contributing member of society, and to be remembered. And we say remembered because we are a permanent program. And so we know that our population is aging and that more than likely we will have our participants pass away on site or through medical complications that they leave us, but they are our folks. And one of the biggest fears that I've come across with the homeless population is that who's going to remember me? No one cares about me. And it wouldn't matter if I died. And it does matter, and we will remember you, and your name will carry on through the village. Oh, and I'm sorry, I just realized that it's like this. Let me put us back to that presentation mode. This is how you get to 15 minutes if you just do things like this. There we go. This, I believe this picture is out of Austin, Texas. Ours look like the ones that you saw on the video, and they have now been moved into the village itself. There are 6 cul-de-sac areas that you'll see throughout our village, and all the porches kind of face each other within those cul-de-sacs to create those environments. So our vision for Goodness Village is to provide a stable environment. That's why we say permanent. So when you know that it is permanent and you come from a history of trauma, then you're going to be more willing to create roots and create relationship and begin that healing process and develop relationship with the staff member and your neighbors and the volunteers in order to start taking steps towards your recovery, and to potentially to gaining an equitable wage and leaving the village. If we say that it's temporary or transitional, then you stay in that hypervigilant mode because you never know when it's going to end for you and you don't set your roots in. So although we say we're a permanent program, our goal is for some of our folks to move on, and we will assist them in those ways, and by connecting them with family members or connecting them to an equitable wage employment. Some of our partners are going to develop relationships and combine incomes, and we can't have them in a twin size bed inside a 10 by or 20 by 8 house. So in that way, we'll help them move on to other programs. Also getting on wait lists for housing, which are there's over 9,000 people in Alameda County on housing wait lists at this time. So it is a journey to get to that place. So we provide that fresh start, a place to recover, rest, whether it's a study out of Austin, that it is 30 days for every year that you've been homeless is a time for folks to really get out of that trauma response place. So our folks that have been applying have been on the streets for 10 to 15 years. So there's a time period that we're expecting for them to come in and just sleep. Know that they lock their door and they're able to sleep for 8 hours without having to move quickly or be afraid that someone's going to attack them. And then there's engagement in our volunteer programs and our vocational programs and mentorship programs along the way. So we provide 24-hour support. There's teams of 2 and support staff that are on site at all times. And then there's other staff, supportive staff that come in during the daytime. The number one rule that I have on our site is that everyone is offered dignity and respect, whether you are a member of the church as the pastor or you just entered us from 15 years on the street. And our goal is to create community. We know that community is already in existence for our participants. If you look at the encampments, they are set in communities. They are not healthy communities. They're trauma response communities, and we want to help provide a more stable, healthy community where we unlearn those negative coping mechanisms that have kept you alive, but living at a lower level of what you were made and purposely created to do. I'm going to help them find that. So again, there's 28 housing units. There's 8 of them are wheelchair accessible, and those are 10 by 20s. They're pretty cool. They all have the kitchenette and the bathroom, and then there's 20 regular size. They are 8 by 20. Again, if you come out, I have 2 models that are available to come see. The range is based off of their income, and roughly about 30%, but also takes into account what do you owe the community. So if you are in debt, it doesn't matter if you pay us rent, you'll never leave us because you won't be able to afford that. So helping pay those. Do you have some evictions, and do we need to back pay those kind of things? So clearing up the barriers that are existing to why they can't have housing in the regular community is our priority before our rent, because $350 a month isn't really making a dent into our budget, but could mean something really huge for them if they could pay off $350 and then start paying us rent. So working on that, also working on getting them SSI or SSDI if they're eligible for that. We have a person that has applied who in the last 5 years has had over 37 jobs because he has a brain injury, but he doesn't stay anywhere long enough to get the SSI that he deserves for the trauma that he's been through. And coming into our program creates that place to where he can get the SSI, but also still work and feel purposeful, is which he's trying to do with the 37 jobs. We are fundraising for an outdoor community center at this time. We have an indoor space. It is a 2-bedroom house that's on the property. So we have 2 confidential office space and then the shared living room and kitchen that the participants can come and cook and hang out and interact with the staff and members of the community. But we're fundraising because that we will quickly outgrow that space. We're about halfway there with that outdoor community center that will create a group space and a place where we can all break bread and work together. And then we have the arts and craft activities that are on site every day for them to do. And let's see, so these are our qualifications. This living not meant for human habitation is the definition of HUD for chronic homelessness. So anyone that's been out on the streets for 12 months over the last 3 years, which, like I said, most of our applicants have been out there for over 15 years. Most of our applicants are 55 and up, and a couple of women in their 70s have been living in their car. Because the way that our programs typically have been structured is you get in at a low base rent off of your percentage, but then it keeps increasing every few months until you're at a basic market rent. Well, their income never changes because they're on Social Security. So they're not eligible for those programs because they're never going to make enough to afford to live in the Livermore area, despite having been born, raised, had families here, and are now homeless. So our priority is to the Livermore and Tri-Valley residents of Livermore, Pleasanton, and Dublin. They do need to be able to pay rent of $350, but again, that's flexible because we're going to look at what is owed to the community and then work from there. Some of our folks do work full time and they work for minimum wage, so their rent will be roughly around $750 to $800, depending on what also they owe into the community. They all desire to participate in a community. Shockingly, not every person on the street wants to be in a community. So there's going to be folks that say no. There also are going to be folks that say, I can't live in such a small space, and that's okay, right? This is a choice, and that's why in that video you had heard me say, you know, we want to show them the home and make sure that this is something that they want, right? We're not demanding anyone take this. We're not forcing anybody. They really need to make an educated decision on it. Can you live in this small space, and do you want to be in a community where there's a lot of interaction? We're asking folks to be willing to participate in our opportunities, that they don't have to. And that's ultimately, that's my staff's job to create that engagement, right? If you come from that trauma path, you may say from the very beginning, I'm not doing any of that. And then it's my staff's job to create that relationship where you want to come out, you want to talk with them, you want to engage in that sort of way. So we've hired a dynamic staff that is, I believe, able to do that. All of our folks are engaged in some sort of case management program, and that was our first look at, are you connected to an existing community already? Are you willing to work with somebody outside the homeless community? And they vetted them, and they're going to carry on with them. Because my concern is, if you don't work out here, we definitely don't want you to be abandoned yet again if you do need to leave our program. We want to do a warm handoff back to your support person, and then make sure we don't completely lose you into homelessness and despair. So we're making sure they stay connected to their case management. So this is a path to employment and training. I have a 5, maybe too optimistic plan, but I have a 5-year plan that our folks that are interested in learning trades will learn them on site. We are in conversation of taking over a barn on the Crosswinds property to open up a trade school. My goal out of that is that we learn how to build our own tiny homes for phase 2, as well as be able to sell tiny homes to folks that are coming out to model this program into their own community. I also have a goal to open an art studio within that same barn structure. There's a smaller area space, and we can create a maker's studio, and initially hosting some makers festivals and on our own property, but also eventually opening a store or retail shop of our makers goods downtown Livermore, so that I want to bring the community in for our folks in mentorship, but I want to make sure our folks go back out to the community, and that it's everyone's going it's an, you know, in and out sort of situation. I'm not moving folks to Crosswinds property to the back to hide our homeless population, but instead to help them become well and live a better quality life, and then reintegrate back into our community in positive ways. We have on-site mentoring, which we're always looking for volunteers for. If you have a skill set that you think somebody might be interested in, there's a link on our website to do that. We're making sure they have access to community resources. We have a registered nurse that is coming on twice a month to make sure that she is monitoring some medical and psychiatric care in a way that can't happen with the outpatient services, because there are so many in our community that they're seeing people every 6 to 8 weeks. And when you have a psychiatric disorder, you need to be seen more often and develop a relationship. And then we have on-site counseling services. Oh, already told you about this. Did I mention all of them have sprinkler systems? Super important. And this is our 4-tiered approach to recovery. I believe I've covered most of this for you, but if you want to take a look, this is pretty much, so we're providing the community with the healthy relationships, positive reinforcement. We're looking at entrepreneurship. I don't believe that we have many homeless population of 55 and up that are going to go and work at McDonald's in an entry-level position, But they, more than likely, we've got some creative entrepreneurs, and if I can match them with a mentor to help them develop that purpose and passion, that's what we want to do. It's also a place to refresh, recover from your trauma history that started typically, 4 to 5 years old and has gone on till age 55 because you live in that trauma response place when you're on the street. We want to do that. Time to grieve the loss of the life that they thought they were going to have and the life that they do have now, and to work on improving their physical and mental health. And then this is the resident support is our 24-hour staff, our mentorship program, case management, and then improving your medical and physical health again. These are a number of partners. We have many new partners that have grown with us. One of them most recently is Workday. And today, after 12 o'clock today, they are bringing me 28 laptops. They have donated one for every resident that we have. And they are also going to provide tech training for learning basics of how do you create an email? How do you do Facebook? Because we want to connect them again with their family, whether it's their children or their parents, siblings, things like that, so that once they're well, then they could maybe have some relationships there that have been missing. So those are our big one is the mayor that's in this room with us. So really, really appreciate having this program in his community. These are some sponsorship opportunities for our businesses. It costs us, each home is $50,000 and more, right? With everything that's gone on within it and the infrastructure. So we've spent $2.5 million on homes and infrastructure to build these out. The $2,000 is the inside. So the cool thing about our program, and probably one of my favorite things, is as we've identified who's coming in, they've passed the background check and we're moving forward. There's a questionnaire that they fill out that's what's your favorite color? What's your favorite place to go? Do you have any pictures of your family that you would want framed? Favorite animal, things like this, favorite foods. And then that form goes over to our team of volunteer interior designers, and they are personalizing every home before they come through the door. We also have a group that is fundraising, doing a GoFundMe for gift cards, so that we can also take their sizes that's on that same form. And on day of arrival, they will have a brand new outfit and some pajamas in their home waiting for them. So we can get them showered up, put this new outfit on, and get everything else washed, so that they're starting fresh. It is $28,000 annually that we're asking for sustainable support. Again, we have plans to become sustainable through the tiny home, being able to build the tiny homes and having the maker studio, but we're really looking for some startup funds. My staffing for the 24-hour staff is roughly $850,000. That includes utilities and everything. So that's my annual budget, which works out to, I forgot the number. I believe it's $88 $88 a night per resident, which is less than a hotel, less than a jail, less than a hospital. Really important for our taxpayers to understand that dollar amount is we're saving over time. It just sounds like a lot, but over time we're saving some tax dollars for sure. This is our open air community center that we're fundraising for. We have changed and attached the laundry room to that open air center so that we can save cost in the long run. And we're about halfway there for our community center / laundry room space. Ultimately, we need funds, not gonna lie, that's big in order to continue on. But we also really, really need volunteers in the community. It's so important for these people to be seen and heard in their recovery. So anytime someone has some hours to give, I would love to have you. Our biggest need is we are having family dinners twice a week. I would really love to do every night because as you could see from that stove top, it's 2 burners and it's really for like reheating or doing something that's probably not the best, healthiest meal. And high blood pressure, diabetes, that all runs rampant through our homeless population. So serving a healthy meal in a community setting where we can not only take care of you, your physical and your medical needs, but take care of your mental health needs by sitting together and talking together, and really just eye contact is just huge. Those, I would ask the community to show up in that way. And also it will help dispel that myth that our folks are homeless because they're lazy, drug addicted people, but instead you'll begin to hear their stories and understand the trauma history that comes from that, and maybe understand the coping mechanisms that were developed out of that, so that these survivors could get up every single day, which is phenomenal to me, that they could get up every day and choose to try one more day to live. So I would encourage you to come out and see what we're doing and meet the folks that that were at one time sleeping in the doorsteps for our Livermore businesses. So thank you so much. And any questions? Thank you for bearing with my technology is not my gift. I can tell you that.
Kim, I do see a question in the chat. They ask if, do the residents have transportation?
So some of them have their own cars. We did just, my very helpful volunteer coordinator accepted a donation of a car yesterday before I finished looking to see what insurance will cost and the upkeep of that, and will it fit into our budget. So we currently have a car. We also got, thanks to Brittany Kick and Michael Tree, I believe those are the two folks, we have been able to move a bus stop closer from the outlets. It is now at Wolf House. And then we purchased a golf cart so that we can help folks get over there. Also, Wheels is giving everyone a card, a bus pass to start. And there is some discounts through the city for half off if you have a disability for Uber and I can't remember that off the top of my head, the other service. So we're working on figuring out those and navigating that. It's just really expensive to put full coverage insurance on a car to drive these folks around. And also would mean upping our staffing in order to take folks places. So we're still trying to be creative on what that looks like. And without knowing how many of them are coming in with cars, we're kind of a little bit more hesitant on implementing anything until we know what that's going to look like. I did just see someone pop up and say, do they get pets? And they sure do. We have limited it to 2 dogs if they have dogs. And they cannot be the aggressive breeds due to insurance. And they do have to be, their pets need to be vetted by their case manager in the outpatient program so that they are safe pets. And it needs to be shown in their budget how they're going to afford to care for those pets. Let me see.
And then is there room to
There is
expand
room.
some
There
more?
is room. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just noticing that question. Is there room to expand more units on your site?
There is, I believe, room for 200 more homes. That's there's 35 acres on Crosswinds, and as I keep saying it, no one has told me no at Crosswinds. In fact, they've said find the funder to move the infrastructure to the other side of the creek, and there's room to build, which is where we were originally going to build in 5 to 6 years from now, or 5 to 6 years from a year ago. When we went to Austin, the goal was that we would have homes and a village on the other side of the creek that's on Crosswinds. And then Scott Haggerty heard of our plan, and he sped the program up. And so we were able to find a space within an existing housing space on Crosswinds where infrastructure was easily able to move. And that's why we planted 28 homes right where they're at, but there is room for 200 more, easily 200 more on that property.
Great. I see one other question. You referred to addiction as a possible cause of homelessness, but not for all. Are individuals who are currently struggling with addiction eligible for these homes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're not written as a sober living housing program. We are a behavioral housing program. And we understand that the substance use is a coping mechanism that has worked for folks. Maybe we see it as ineffectively, but it's successfully has kept them alive and able to function on the streets. Our goal is that everyone that comes in has also the same goal to decrease or stop their use, but we wanted to leave it as an open conversation. If you did have a relapse, your housing is not at risk unless you became a danger to someone else on the property, whether it's a volunteer, my staff, or your neighbor, yourself. We really need to have those conversations, and not always yourself, right? Because we make bad decisions when we're under the influence and may do self-harm. But also we just wanted to be able to remove the shame and the guilt and have an open conversation about, okay, so this happened, but how do we move forward? And how do we continue to be successful in our housing? And so it is a place to work on your addiction. We are working quite closely with CityServe. They have done a bulk of the referrals to us. They are the ones that really know the population out here and have been able to vet who they're referring. And they also want to see us expand. So they are helping pick folks that they believe would be pretty successful in this housing program. They also went to Austin with us and have seen the program that we're modeled after and really understand what our goals are and how we function as a program, and are able to speak that to the folks that they're encouraging to apply to the program. What they do is they're also going to stick with them while they're with us. So again, so if they're not successful in this housing program and we do need to ask them to leave, they're going back to the same case manager that they know, that they have a good working relationship with, and they can kind of help cradle the outcome from this, from losing their housing. Let me see.
So a couple more questions.
we have over 100 referrals, and that means that over 100 applications are out there. Most have been returned and completed. Some are still being completed and coming back in because we froze it for a minute and then reopened it. We have over 28 completed applications at this time. That doesn't mean that all of them are coming in. We are interviewing. We have interviewed 10 that we know we're going to bring in. A couple of the other interviews, they chose not to come, or it just was not a good interview, and we decided maybe phase 2, phase 3, they would be a better fit for us. But now, since we're just 28 and we're trying, we got to show crosswinds that we're going to take care and protect their land as well. We're being pretty particular about who we bring in. Plans for next phase? Yes, always. 200 more homes. How many homes are in the community of Austin? They started 6 or 7 years ago now with 200 homes. They just added 300 and they're finishing up on that phase 2. And a month ago, they were given funding and land to have a completion in 5 years to be 1,900 homes. So it works. This program works. And what I learned when I was there is that the crime there's no crime that's happening within their village. What is happening is folks come from the outside and do harm on the people living there. So they come in to create damage rather than them going out to create damage, because they finally have a home, they feel safe, and they're feeling loved and cared for. So that is decreased, but it's others that are coming in to create harm on them. So I think that's all my questions, unless I missed one.
Kim,
Where else? Yes.
Dawn, would you mind putting up the second to the last slide, please, that you showed? And you had some opportunities on there. I just want to
Absolutely
invite our businesses that are sitting around this table. We have a lot of bandwidth and folks who are very generous in other areas. And I want to be sure that they see this opportunity to support your amazing project that's going on there. And
thank you so
and
much.
going forward, yes, we want to connect you with the business community and its resources and support.
Thank you. Thank you.
There were you had some options on there on that one.
Yeah, there's down here in the bottom right. Are you seeing it?
No, it's just a white screen.
Oh, well, that's not good for you.
Oh, it's coming, it's loading.
How's that? Can you see
Yeah.
that? So bottom right is what we're looking at right there. Of course, so if I, any little bit helps. Let me just tell you that anything. We've got folks that are committed to $20 a month. Huge, right? That is just a giving spirit, and that's all we ask for is in this and what we're doing here. And it just shows that you're connected as a community and showing up and seeing what we're doing, and that's huge. Our advocates and are helping, and our ambassadors are really helping to balance that in between of making sure our staff are paid for. And most of them sadly have to work 2 jobs because nonprofits we just don't have the funds to pay them very well. So anything you can give matters, and we're appreciative.
Okay. Awesome. Shelter and food, basic needs. So,
Absolutely.
So Kim, this is Sharon Jenkins with John Muir Health. So if we send you your contact information, like for John Muir Health, we have an application process for, our community benefit kind of requests that come in. You have folks on your team that can go ahead and fill in those necessary questions on the application. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. Anyone else have something for me? Questions? I can't see the chat anymore since I have this open.
If I could just make a quick comment.
Sure.
John Marchand here. So wonderful program. This is fantastic. And you're talking about setting up that trades education center. I would suggest partnering with ABC NorCal. They're here in Livermore, and what they do is they train people in the trades. They've got a wonderful apprenticeship program. So they got people that actually do this. So it's ABC NorCal. Again, they're right here in Livermore. And as far as the value of the community, when I was working with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the U.S. Interagency Commission on Homelessness, identified that a homeless individual in a community costs the community about $100,000 a year. When you're talking about the criminal justice system, the emergency responders, police, fire, criminal justice system, going into hospitals in emergency situations where they're sick much longer. So it's about $100,000 a year. So what you're talking about, $88 a night, that is a bargain. So this is a tremendous value to the community. So wonderful project, wonderful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for acknowledging that. Appreciate that.
and Kim, you said the max would be 200 of these, right, on the property? Oh.
228 is what I'm guessing. I haven't had anybody walk it. This is just my bare bone eyeballs of what I think I can get in there. That's the minimum.
Okay, thank you.
And I will tell you, I have jokingly told people that the guys that own the driving range next door they're going to give us their land. Rumor has it they'll never do it, but if I keep saying it, maybe they'll feel. I'll take it.
I would just like to say that this is really inspiring, and thank you for the tour you gave us the other day. And this is really the right way to go. And it's good, as Don opened our meeting with just talking about how important it is to help house the less fortunate. I think this is an incredible example. So it's, we just have to be thankful that there are people like yourself and the others that are making this happen. It's one thing to support it, but with what you're doing is you're making it happen. So that's wonderful. And as I'd like to reiterate what Don said, if we can get the businesses here and help through the chamber and the relationships to help fund this, I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
Kim Curtis, can you please put before we all sign off, can you please put your contact information and everything else in the chat so that people can grab it before we sign off, I think.
Absolutely.
And the video with the chat will be posted on our website after it's, edited and converted and all that stuff.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Kim. Lots of questions, lots of comments. You can tell that was a great presentation. So thank you. I think people are excited and hopeful. All right, I think that is it for this morning. I'm waiting for, before we sign off, Kim, make sure all your information is in the chat.